Now, I don't know about you, but there is nothing more annoying than watching someone repeatedly make the same mistake over and over again. The movie business is responsible for trying the same stupid things again and again. From casting blunders and weird costuming to franchise retcons and naked attempts at invoking nostalgia, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture, and here are 10 diabolical movie mistakes you won't believe they made twice. Number 10. Bad tattoos, Suicide Squad, and The Bride. In early 2024, it was revealed that Jessie Buckley, Christian Bale, and Penelope Cruz would be joining director Maggie Gyllenhaal to make The Bride, a redo of classic monster movie Bride of Frankenstein. It was later revealed that Bale will be playing Frankenstein's monster, and pictures of the actor in costume were shared online. Ironically, considering that the Welshman famously portrayed Batman, the internet made many comparisons between him and one of the Cape Crusaders' biggest enemies. Yeah, fans noticed pretty instantly that Bale's monster design was a dead ringer for Jared Leto's infamous incarnation of the Joker from the 2016 Suicide Squad movie. This version of the Clown Prince of Crime was roundly marked for his golden grills and audacious tattoos. And wouldn't you know it, this recent costume has also been memed to within an inch of its life. He's even doing the mad Joker head tilt run hands through hair thingy in the promo image shared. Like, how did no one point this out? Suicide Squad came out, of course, in 2016, which means that in just 8 years, the costume department for The Bride forgot how bad the reaction to Joker's look actually was. Either that, or they have way better movie taste than all of us and were not roped into seeing it by that deceptively good Bohemian Rhapsody trailer, which I still hold a grudge over. Also, on a serious note, still looking forward to this one. Number 9. Casting Chris Pratt, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and the Garfield movie. Everyone knows what Mario sounds like, right? The Mustachio Plumber's iconic voice, provided by the legendary Charles Martinet, is one of the most recognizable in all of pop culture, let alone video games themselves. You know, wahoo, and it's-a me, Mario. My terrible voices aside, the Italian inflections of Mario's voice meant that when it was revealed that Chris Pratt would be voicing the character in the 2023 Super Mario Bros. Movie, audiences were, well, a little surprised. Pratt's decision to perform the role using a very suspicious Italian accent, and again, I have no right to comment on that given what I just did, was met with a mixture of criticism and heckling from moviegoers. It's fine for an actor to put their own spin on a character, but when they remove something that is so integral to the persona, people are understandably gonna get just a little bit peeved. Worth noting as well that the Mario movie itself was ridiculously popular, so evidently people who aren't as chronically online didn't really care. But even so, Pratt, in the words of J. Jonah Jameson, "You're a menace." Oh, and it actually doesn't stop there. The very next year, another animated movie featuring a character with a famous voice also cast Pratt in the role. This after also starring in animated features like the Lego Movie and onward. Seriously, what is the obsession here? The Garfield movie, the latest big screen outing for the lasagna-loving orange cat, will star the Guardians of the Galaxy actor as the titular feline. By the looks of the trailer, he's made no effort to replicate the character's sardonic drawl, which is like the whole point of Garfield. Maybe if they show us enough cute baby Garfield, then we'll all go and see it, but for now, Pratt fatigue has well and truly warded me off. Number 8. Dull costumes, X-Men and Dark Phoenix. In comic book land, the X-Men have some of the brightest, most vibrant costumes you'll ever see. I mean, just look at these guys. They're the coolest. Unfortunately, when the first live-action X-Men movie came out in 2000, black leather was all the rage, so the likes of Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, and Magneto ditched their iconic gear for something more low-key, with James Marsden's Cyclops even riffing on this choice in a comment to Logan before the finale. This unfortunately dull trend continued throughout the following sequels, bar a brief aberration with X-Men First Class, until X-Men Apocalypse ended with a tease that more exciting uniforms were on the way, and then they took it away from us. As well as being an unmitigated disaster, genuinely one of the worst comic book movies I've ever seen, Dark Phoenix also decked out its mutant cast in dull blue suits with big yellow X's on them. Now, in the film's defense, it did take inspiration from Frank Quitely's iconic new X-Men designs from the comics. But even on that front, the movie failed to capture the texture of the costumes themselves. Plus, that's meant to be early 2000s fashion. We're meant to be in the 90s with Dark Phoenix. Give me those cropped hoodies and denim shorts. What at first seemed like the perfect chance to incorporate some of the great individual costumes from the comics, particularly since Dark Phoenix was set in that decade when the X-Men were given their iconic suits from artist Jim Lee, ended up getting squandered, with our hopes and dreams impaled on a rusty pole like Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. What characters wear might not seem like a big deal, but in a series like the X-Men, where individuality is one of the key themes, these bland, homogenized outfits are totally unacceptable. Further insult to injury when the Wolverine also cut an ending where Logan received his iconic orange suit in a briefcase. Also, last Dark Phoenix rant here, the movie had Dazzler, but only used Dazzler in one scene. If you have Dazzler, I expect full commitment. Maybe it'll happen in the future. Number 7. The Jasonification of Michael Myers by the franchise Halloween. I'm really proud of that entry heading. I hope all 7 of you who got it enjoyed it. Anyway, John Carpenter's 1978 movie Halloween is rightfully held in very high regard, as it pretty much single-handedly popularized the slasher genre that is still alive and well today. One of the many franchises to follow in Halloween's blood-soaked footsteps was Friday the 13th, which introduced its major villain, Jason Voorhees, in 1981. Since then, horror hounds have noticed that, despite being 3 years older, Halloween's Michael Myers has slowly been morphing into his hockey mask-wearing colleague, which is kind of dumb. While the original Myers was a disturbed but otherwise unremarkable human being, over time he has displayed more and more supernatural qualities. In Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, he is revealed to have survived a building exploding, and he has also come back from being stabbed, electrocuted, and set on fire. As the franchise progressed, his physical appearance also had to change. By the 5th Halloween movie, The Curse of Michael Myers, the titular baddie was a huge hulk of a man with Jason's strength, when in the original, he was much slimmer and more normal looking. This problem was fixed slightly in the first David Gordon Green film, but after that, and even when trying to tap into the original, they still fell into the pitfalls of the sequels they were, ironically, trying to avoid. Number 6. Retconning the first 2 films, Terminator Genisys and Terminator Dark Fate. Considering how excellent and groundbreaking James Cameron's first 2 Terminator movies were, it's almost impressive that most of what came after has been pretty stinky. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines was inoffensive but ultimately pointless, while 2009 film Terminator Salvation is more remembered these days for Christian Bale's on-set outburst than for anything it pulled off on the screen itself. Gotta hand it to Salvation though, it actually tried to do something new with the franchise, and for that, it gets a little applause. Not too vigorous, just a respectful clap. Yeah, that's about the right level. Despite Rise of the Machines and Salvation varying from so-and-so to just pretty bad, neither came close on the crap to scale to franchise follow-ups Terminator Genisys and Terminator Dark Fate, which both had the amazing idea to muck around with the established continuity of the first 2 films. The whole premise of Genisys is that Kyle Reese, Sarah Connor's savior and baby daddy from the first movie, discovers that Skynet has beat him to the punch and that his charge is now being guarded by a reprogrammed T-800. As for Dark Fate, that goes completely off the rails within the first few minutes, as a second version of the T-800 tracks down the young John Connor and blows a big old hole in him. Both of these retcons were obviously controversial, but to me, apart from undermining Cameron's films, they also just display a startling lack of imagination and endeavor. The Terminator mythos could be just as rich as Aliens or Predators, but it would be like if those films kept on making sequels that were obsessively dedicated to reimagining the original. Just do something new, and better yet, something that makes sense, because I still have no clue what the hell was going on with Genisys, or these hilarious character promos. Why is Matt Smith screaming? And Matt Smith was in this? Ugh. I don't know, maybe there's no point in doing a Terminator sequel without Cameron, but you'd think that someone would find a unique angle here. Arnie, you deserve better. Number 5. Releasing Morbius twice. Look, at this point, you've gotta hand it to Sony. After fumbling the bag with Spider-Man 4 and turning in the middest films to ever mid with The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel, the studio negotiated a deal with Marvel for Spidey to enter the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They get to relinquish a lot of creative control, but cash in those lovely Disney checks all the same. But that wasn't enough. No, you know what else they needed? A Spidey universe filled with villains and side characters and villains, all of whom would never interact with the actual Spider-Man. Yeah, if not for David Zaslav and his tax write-off obsession, which we'll be getting to in a bit, this would maybe be the most cynically minded movie decision of the last 10 years. And they've been rewarded for it. The first Venom made nearly like $1 billion. The second didn't do that bad either. And then after that, we had Madam Web, who, bless her, is still somewhere in the Amazon looking for her mom who was researching spiders right before she died. And after that, we're gonna get Kraven. And then, I don't know, maybe Big Wheel. But the mistake here isn't that Sony keeps making these movies. No, it's that it released one of them twice because it misinterpreted memedom for genuine positive sentiment. Yep, that's right, we're bringing back the Morbin discourse. No, I don't care that it's 2024. You all have to remember this happened as well. Morbius, starring Jared Leto as the vampiric character, was released against all reason in March 2022. The fact that the movie was so stupid and should just not exist led to an ironic meme movement online, with fans declaring that it was Morbin time and that Morbius would break every box office record on the globe. The film released enough reviews, scored a middling box office return, and then Sony was like, hey, those kids online, they like this Morbius character, let's release it again, to even less interest. I genuinely don't know how someone at a studio thought this was a good idea, but at this point, you just gotta respect the stupidity of it all. Like, that's next level dumbness. Number 4. Reducing the violence. RoboCop 3 and RoboCop 2014. The original RoboCop from 1987 is famously bloody. Director Paul Verhoeven wanted his movie to be so outrageously gory that it would complement the film's satirical bent, and boy did it do just that. The second RoboCop, which came along around 3 years later, was set to be equally gratuitous, but it lacked the venom of its predecessor. The studio was keen to pacify the character and rake in box office receipts from a more family-friendly outing. Gotta love the 80s and its funnily inappropriate children's cartoons. You guys had RoboCop, Rambo. Genuinely a travesty we never got one for Predator. Either way, RoboCop 3 then came along and turned up the child-friendly vibes another notch and failed miserably, becoming both a commercial and critical disappointment. This makes it even stranger that, when the series was rebooted in 2014, it was once again handled with kid gloves. The new RoboCop was also a PG-13 and, shockingly, also a bit rubbish. If anything, this was even worse, as fans could directly compare this tame version of the story to the beautifully unhinged original, which was not good news for the more recent model. But hey, at least we had that RoboCop Rogue City game from the other year. That thing is a certified banger. Number 3. Legacy cast nostalgia. Jurassic World Dominion and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Jurassic World Dominion, the third movie in the rebooted Jurassic World series, was one of the first big post-COVID cinema releases, and moviegoers were rewarded with a stacked old cast. Alongside modern stars like Bryce Dallas Howard and the aforementioned Mr. Pratt, Dominion also reunited the main trio from the first film: Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. In 2024, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, another installment in a reboot of the classic series, pulled this same trick by bringing back Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and Bill Murray to reprise their parts from the original film. Unfortunately, neither of these decisions resulted in particularly great movies. Both Dominion and Frozen Empire, if we're being really honest, relied way too heavily on shiny cameos, instead of crafting something new and fresh. Rather than loving homages to the past, these reunions felt more like they were playing to the nostalgia crowd, securing the cast first, but failing to really craft a truly great story around them. For Dominion, that issue more comes down to just the story being bad and also those movies being boring in general. But with Frozen Empire, it just juggles too many characters for one film, which is a real shame because I had sort of high hopes for that one. The point I'm getting at is that nostalgia is nice and all, and in the Jurassic World movies case, not the main reasons those films are bad, but it can't be all we have to play with. Number 2. Cancelling movies for tax write-off purposes. Warner Bros. Discovery. Headlines were made in 2022 when Warner Bros. Discovery announced that it was cancelling plans to release its upcoming Batgirl movie on HBO Max. Or anywhere else for that matter. Batgirl, which had been due for release that year, was set to star Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon and feature a host of big stars like J.K. Simmons, Brendan Fraser, and Michael Keaton returning to the role of the Dark Knight. And having seen glimpses of The Flash, yeah, I think it's safe to say the wrong project got binned. David Zaslav's WB also revealed that it would be cancelling Scoob Holiday Haunt, an animated picture about younger versions of the Mystery Incorporated gang. 1 year later, Coyote vs. Acme, a legal comedy about Wile E. Coyote from the world of Looney Tunes, became the third casualty of WBD's cost-cutting crusade. Really gets my blood up. It was bad enough that Batgirl, a big-budget project with plenty of name value and 2 talented filmmakers behind the camera, was canned. But if WB isn't careful, well, it's in real risk of ruining a once prestigious studio's reputation, if that isn't the case already, and to be honest, it probably is. Like, how does WB expect audiences to get excited about upcoming movies when they know there's every chance they might not actually get to see them? And how do they attract talent? Moreover, how does the company keep getting away with it? In the words of Foghorn Leghorn, the boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball. And number 1, all those boring humans. The Monsterverse movies. If you're gonna make an entire series of films about gigantic titans with supernatural powers, it's probably a good idea to make them the main focus. Launching with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla reboot in 2014, Legendary Pictures and Warner Bros. Monsterverse has expanded to 5 movies and 2 TV shows, usually revolving around the deeds of the aforementioned giant reptile and his buddy, King Kong. Well, that's who they should revolve around, in theory. Instead, bafflingly, a ludicrous amount of these movies' screen time has been devoted to a rogues gallery of bland, uninspired humans. Skull Island fared better than the others in this department, as does the new Monarch TV show, which is great, as well as the 2014 Godzilla film, but come on, you can't seriously tell me you get excited to watch about an hour of boring comedy and exposition from these guys once the titles have dropped. I just want to see the big monkey fight the big lizard. Is that too much to ask? Obviously, this franchise needs human characters to frame all the monster stuff around, and we've seen it done well. But if you're gonna tell stories through ordinary people, it needs to be something of value. Better yet, shift away from them and onto the terrifying ape and lizard that have been proven box office draws for over 70 years. Please, and I'm begging you, because I would really like to watch one of these movies, but they are so boring to sit through.